enough of our opinion. We don't live by the Bay. We don't cover the Warriors. No. Kylen Mills is back here on this Tuesday on the early line. Kylen, thank you for bearing through some of the technical difficulties. We appreciate you here on TEL. Not sure what you heard of our discussion or the question I asked you to begin, but as we look back on the 13 years for Klay Thompson, my question was, how would you describe his legacy? I ask you the same one, Klay Thompson's time with the Warriors.
Klay Thompson, and Ben, glad to be back with you. Klay Thompson is beloved in the Bay Area. There's no question they are going to build a statue right after the news really broke that he was going to be departing the Golden State Warriors for the Dallas Mavericks. The team did issue a statement saying his jersey is going to be retired. Not that that was in question, but they wanted to make it a point to put it out there. Everyone has said, thank you, Klay. His legacy is 4 championships. At the end of the day, what this Golden State Warriors core did is something that's incredible. 4 titles in 8 years. I mean, it's a dynasty. It's an absolute dynasty. And then you look at, I think what really makes this Warriors core special, and I don't know if this really ties into legacy, but was just how much Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green genuinely liked each other, enjoyed each other. Like, that's one thing that 100% has stood out to me as a media member, because you cover teams at the collegiate level, the professional level, and sure, you have players who are teammates, but those 3 genuinely enjoyed spending time together. It was something right after the 2022 title run that was pointed out by former general manager Bob Myers. He's like, those 3 still sit on the plane together every single trip. After 13 years, you just don't see that in the NBA and in professional sports for 3 stars of a team and of an organization to enjoy and love being around each other. And that's something that did not change. So one thing that will really stick with me about just this past generation and what we saw from the Warriors is the culture, the environment, and that bond between that big 3, I do think is something that hasn't been seen before in that way.
When we take a look at turning the page here, Kylen, sometimes it's hard to do with superstar players beloved, as you said, by the franchise. It's not that long ago that we saw them make 5 straight finals, which include wins of 67, 73, 67, 58, and 57. But the question I want to ask you now is, we're hearing Steph Curry talk about this. Hey, if they let Klay go, I don't know if I'm going to be a Golden State Warrior for life, which we all want it to be. What's the future for Steph Curry for the Warriors looking like now that with Klay Thompson escaping the Bay Area? Is there a chance that he might be doing the same thing in a few years as well?
There is nothing more paramount to this organization than keeping Steph Curry in the Bay. It's not the same situation, unfortunately, as Klay Thompson. Steph Curry has transcended sport, has transcended basketball. The greatest three-point shooter of all time, to some, the greatest shooter and a top 10 NBA player, according to a lot of folks' metrics, when you look at the history of a very, very long-standing league. So there is nothing more important to this organization than keeping Steph Curry in the Bay. Yeah, you've got some people who are saying, is Steph side-eyeing this front office now? Because let's not forget, reports came out and Steph has acknowledged that despite Klay asking him not to speak with the front office and get involved in his contract negotiations, Steph did. He tried to use his influence. He said, I told the front office, I want Klay to stay, and that's not what happened. So there is a little bit of discussion like, hey, is he side-eyeing the front office now? And then the statement comes out where he's saying, well, at the end of the day, yeah, I want to and plan to stay a Golden State Warrior, but look what happened with Klay. Anything's possible. I do think that he's going to stay with the Golden State Warriors. I believe that Steph Curry is going to retire a Warrior, and I think that is a major priority to this organization. We saw with Klay Thompson, it wasn't a priority. Steph Curry is a priority. So I do think there is a difference there between one Splash Brother to the other.
Steph Curry drafted 7th overall way back in 2009. Klay Thompson 11th overall 2 years later, and Draymond Green in the 2nd round the following draft. In the last 12 years, you saw the stats right there. 6 NBA Finals appearances, 4 Larry O'Brien trophies, the best regular season record, the most playoff victories, and the best postseason record in the association in that time. So now it's how Golden State moves forward. Kylen, 40 seconds left in this segment. Maybe, if you will, we could stick around and continue the conversation on the other side of the break. But some of the acquisitions so far, Kyle Anderson, Buddy Hield. What else needs to happen this offseason for the Dubs?
The Warriors need a consistent secondary score. They need to bring in a bigger star than a Buddy Hield, DeAnthony Melton, Kyle Anderson, anyone on that list. The big problem for the Dubs last season is that Klay Thompson was inconsistent. His numbers were down, averaging right about 18 points per game. They need someone who's going to reliably score 20 plus and to give Steph Curry the help he needs. You have to space the floor. You have to have other threats to keep offenses honest. So there's got to be some help brought in for Steph. I love Lauri Markkanen, Ben. That's where my head's at.
To the break we go next. Live right here on this Tuesday on the early line on SportsGrid. Kylen Mills joins us at least for a couple of more minutes for a second consecutive segment to look at the outlook by the Bay for Golden State. Now, Kylen, you mentioned Lauri Markkanen. Here are the moves that have been made by the Warriors organization so far this offseason. Of course, Klay Thompson in a sign and trade dealt to Dallas. Chris Paul was waived earlier this offseason. The acquisitions of Buddy Hield, of Kyle Anderson. They signed DeAnthony Melton as well. And you mentioned Lauri Markkanen. What are the chances, would you say, the Dubs end up with Markkanen next season?
I've been talking to a lot of my friends with the Utah Jazz who cover the team. It's anybody's guess at this point. Is Danny Ainge, is he letting on? Is this a poker face? What realistically does this Jazz organization want? Now, it is reported that the Warriors have a serious pick-heavy offer in. Part of the problem is the Warriors don't have as many picks as some of the other teams that might be bidding for Lauri Markkanen. But I do think the Warriors are serious about wanting to bring him in. They've said all offseason they plan on making major moves. Well, I think those three players you saw are good moves. They're ancillary pieces. They need a key piece. They need a secondary star to go alongside Steph Curry. I love Lauri Markkanen because you're talking about a 7-footer on a team that is undersized who can shoot the 3 ball on a team that wants to spread the floor. Right now, the Warriors have Kevon Looney and Draymond Green starting in their front court. That's a big problem because you don't have to guard those two. They're not offensive threats, although I will say Draymond Green shot his best three-point shooting percentage of his career this past season, 40%. So he was actually good for at least 1-3 a game. But generally, because Kevon Looney and Draymond Green aren't elite attacking players, it allows defenses to collapse. They can double team other places, and it just creates more clogged in the lane, and it just creates more issues for the Warriors, tougher for other guys to get open. So I think adding a Lauri Markkanen would be a great addition for this Golden State Warriors team. Will it happen? That's the big question, because there were reports out in the Paul George discussions that the Warriors were unwilling to deal Jonathan Kuminga, and that's going to be the big sticking point. Is this Jazz team set on bringing in Jonathan Kuminga? Is that going to be the thing that determines whether this deal goes on or not? And that's something a lot of folks in the media and the fan base are split on. Are you willing to give up Jonathan Kuminga to bring in a Lauri Markkanen or another secondary star?
Kylen, we appreciate the time. Thank you for being here on this Tuesday. Kylen Mills doing great work covering the Golden State Warriors, calling games everywhere for pretty much every network as well. Kylen, thank you so much. Have a great rest of your Tuesday.
Yes, thanks for having me. Appreciate it, guys.